Craft Buddies, we're kicking off today's mystery box video via the Whitney cam. I am en route to a supply run right now because I've got to grab my items from my box and get them shipped out today. Today is February 9th. I've got to send it out. There's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes before you guys actually watch this video. And I wanted to kind of give you an overview of what we're doing. And I figured driving, we might as well just chat on the way to the store. So this mystery box, like I said, is different. That's why we're doing the intro different, everything. And for a new year, new mystery box, this is gonna be so fun. So many of you guys tell us all the time that you wanna see what we're gonna do with similar items as the other people. And so here is a take on that. We have all been paired up. I've been paired up with Courtney, who is the host of this challenge, Creative on the Cheap. She is such a great person. I talk about her all the time. She's my bud. And each pairing has their own craft supply that they have to craft with. So there's not a huge box of stuff that's gonna be coming to my house. It's only 2 challenge items that I'm getting from Courtney. She's sending to me, I'm sending to her. Here's everybody else participating. It's like anything goes for these challenge items. So I've got 2 items, I'm gonna pack them up, I'm gonna send them to her, and then she has to DIY, same with me. We gotta make 4 projects, including fabric. All the other folks have to use what they were assigned. So it's a kind of a wide thing. And I was not gonna be ruthless to Courtney. I was actually, I mean, really, like, you're probably shocked, but I was not gonna be super mean. And then I got this voice text.
So exactly how hard are your challenge items gonna be? I just bought something and I have to say, it's not gonna be easy. I don't know. I just wanna gauge how you're feeling before I decide to end our friendship by sending this to you.
Yeah, so the one-upsmanship is gonna be strong here. You brought this on yourself, Courtney. The box, or should I say the bag, has arrived at my house. So let's crack this open and see what Courtney sent me. Oh, she sent me some cute fabric too. There's a gift card in here, so the items have to not be fun. Now I don't feel bad with what I sent her. I don't even know what's in here, but hey there, super creative, crafty bestie. I really don't know what to say other than I love you to pieces and good luck. Please enjoy the enclosed peace offering. Much love, Courtney. You don't have to use the fabric. That's a please don't hate me gift.
Oh no!
Okay, here we go. I said just send it. I'll take the challenge. So first, let's start with positive. Look at this. And some cherries. Challenge number 1. I kind of like this. I haven't opened anything, but I kind of like the sense of like the world is your oyster, but you have to incorporate these 2 hard things. I don't know, we'll see. I might be eating my words at the end of this video. I do that a lot. I do love me some ranch. She got a great deal on it. It was originally $15.99 and she got it for $1.59. So good on you for getting the deal, Courtney. I'm sure we can do something. This one's probably worth, because I just said that. Like I always say, you get what you get, you don't throw fits, so we're gonna get crafting with these and we'll get into it. Right out of the gate, we are going to grab the challenge item ranch ornament and we're going to chop the top of it off just to make it look like a bottle. Then I went outside, grabbed smoky beige and black spray paint and spray painted both the ranch bottle as well as some items I saved from our recycling. So a breadcrumb container, some iced coffee bottles. And while those were drying, I went on a hunt online to find some authentic looking, easy to print graphics. I printed them out on some photo paper, and that is the key here because so many of you say that when you go to Mod Podge something onto something else, your ink runs. I have found the best thing to do is to print on this glossy photo paper because it dries instantly, it prints really well, and I've not had any running issues with it. We're going to add a little bit of Mod Podge to the bottle, and we're going to make this ranch bottle a molasses bottle instead. So I am applying this, making sure it's all pressed down, and then I'm going to add a coat over the top to seal that in. Again, no running here because I'm using this photo paper. I will link it down below from Amazon. Then we're going to move on to the other items. So I have a large and a small bottle here, and I got those They're just left over from Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. And then we're going to add some cinnamon with the Mod Podge. I have done this before and I love the result, but every time I've done it, it's been seasonal stuff, so I have to put it away. So I wanted some general ones I could leave out in my kitchen, above my cabinets, and around as decor. So we are going to mix in some cinnamon with our Mod Podge. I'm also going to be dabbing on some of it, kind of on the corners of the labels and the bottom of the bottles to make it look old and rustic. And I've seen other people use like instant coffee or have to make like a solution that you keep in the fridge with flour and stuff. That's too much work for me. If that works for you, totally keep doing it. But the cinnamon works great and it's super quick and easy. Then while those were drying, I was like, how am I going to add fabric to this project? Couple ways. One, we're going to take some of this homespun fabric, cut a little slit, and rip it to make some ribbon from the fabric. I'm going to wrap this little buffalo check one around the top of my new little molasses bottle. And then I also used some of the similar fabric but in a larger check around my jars. I just used a rubber band and then tied some jute twine around it. I love how these turned out, and I was like, is this enough of a use of fabric with them? Like, I love how it turned out, but is it enough fabric? Well, we're actually going to add a full fabric DIY this flower bag. So I'm starting with this fabric I actually had left over from my seed bags I made for fall and for Christmas, and we're going to do a similar idea. I printed this Best Self-Rising Flower, another one I got from Etsy, on my transfer paper that I absolutely love. I talk about it all the time. I will link it down below. It's awesome because you can print on it and then you can transfer it to light color fabrics. They also have a dark color one, but I prefer the light colored one because it looks like it melds right into the fabric. I cut a piece of the fabric wide enough so that I could double it up and apply my decal. And then I also hemmed the sides a little bit because that's going to give me area to glue them together. This is a no-sew project. Now, you want to make sure you add your decal before you add your glue if you're adding glue, because if we were to glue this together and then try to add our decal, it would be an absolute hot mess. We'd ruin a bunch of stuff, so we're not going to do that. We're going to add the decal, then the glue. I'm using a regular iron. You just peel the backing off of that sheet after you trim it down, put it on top, and then use your iron. Now look at this. When you add your iron, you're going to follow the instructions. You can also use a heat press, but it's going to start to look clear underneath your parchment paper. Then you know it's done. So look at this. The white has gone away. It looks like it's printed right on the fabric. I love this product so much. So then we are going to hot glue the sides together, and the hems that we made are going to make it really easy to do that. I'm using some Gorilla Glue hot glue. That is what I love to use with fabric. If you use regular hot glue, your seams will probably pop, but the fabric, the Gorilla Glue like glue sticks are for fabric, wood, all the things. And then to get this thing to stand up, I was like, what do I have on hand? I'm using a scrap 2x4 that fit perfectly in my bag, and I'm going to take the bottom and glue it down just kind of like I'm wrapping a present. Once that is all down flat, I want to make sure that it is flat so that it can sit up. Then I'm going to add some polyfill to the bag, and I'm also going to make sure it's pushed down around that 2x4 so it doesn't look blocky at the bottom. I just needed weight so it would sit up on its own and not fall over. Then my last step was to take some hot glue at the top of the bag. I didn't even worry about trimming it down because you're not going to see it. I rolled it a couple times, hot glued it down, and this is good to go. I am so excited about this set because not only do I have the bottles, I've got the flower, and then I also just removed the snowflake from this s'mores container that I made for the last mystery box at the end of last year. So it's all kind of coming together. I am so excited to get this styled in my kitchen, and it is something that I'm going to use for a long time to come. You wouldn't guess that this was a random ranch ornament and items I saved from my recycling bin. This next one is a project I have wanted to do for a long time, and for this you are going to need some fabric, obviously. You're also going to need some sort of ring for the top. I've seen some people use Pringle cans, but I am using a piece that I cut from a roll that came out of shipping labels. Just use my X-Acto knife, trimmed it, and it's about 1/2 inch wide. Try to get it as, clean as you can. Then you are going to take that and trace it on some cardboard to create 2 circles on the inside. Then you're going to do the same thing, trace it on some batting or some foam, whatever you have to give it a little extra cushion. And then you're going to want 2 circles that are about 1/2 inch bigger than your inside of your ring. So then that way you can stretch it over the side and cover it with your fabric. The last thing you're going to need is a larger piece of fabric. I measured my circle and the outside was 10 inches. So I'm going to do 10.5 inches just to be safe. And then the other measurement is 8 inches. So step one, take your fabric rectangle, hem the 8-inch side about 1/4 of an inch, fold it in half, right sides together, and sew along the seam. You can either do it by hand or you can use a machine like I did. Once you've sewn along your 8-inch side, you're going to have this tube. And the thought process is this will be big enough to go around your circle because that's what you measured for the 10-inch measurement. So we're going to put your fabric in here. And then we're going to fold it around the outside to create kind of like a half tube. Very official. Once you have your seams lined up and everything is laying flat, then we are going to create the bottom of our little thread catcher that we're making. So you're going to put down your fabric wrong side down, then batting and cardboard, and then we are going to tie off our thread. You can either do a regular knot or a quilter's knot. And then with the knot on the inside, so on the back side of the fabric, we're going to do a running stitch, which is out, in, around the outside so that it can be gathered and pulled tight so it wraps around the edge of your cardboard and batting. But then once I pulled it tight, I'm starting to just kind of go from one side to the other, and this is just helping so that all of this kind of lays down. Repeat that step again, and then I sandwich them together with some clips just so it didn't move on me, because that tends to happen when I am hand sewing things. And you're going to tie another knot in the same thread. This is just regular old thread that I have, nothing special. And we are going to catch the bottom and the top of the fabric and continue to go around the outside to make sure it's hooked together. When you make it all the way around the outside, you are going to take your needle, go through one of the loops, and then that will create a loop. Go through that loop twice and pull it, and that is going to create a knot that you can easily cut off. You can also hide your ends in that little ditch that you created or just trim it really close. Now that you've got your double-sided circle, that should fit right inside your little tube for the bottom of your thread catcher, and you are going to then use another knot and go through the bottom little cookie there, up through the outside. If I were to do this again, I probably would hand stitch the bottom of my tube together and then stitch it here. It's a little bit extra, but I think it would be helpful, but I was able to do it without, having to do too much. Then your last step before this is finished, you're going to do a quick running stitch around the outside. So out, in, around the outside, right underneath the edge of that hard piece at the top so it stays in place. Because when we go to collapse this, it will move if you don't do this step. Trim all of your threads and your little thread catcher is ready to go. I saw somebody share this on their TikTok where they bought this on Etsy for all of their threads from needlepoint, embroidery, whatever. And I was like, I need to make one of these. So I perused a ton of tutorials, and this was the easiest way I found to make it. And this is the easiest way I've found, kind of a hybrid of some of those. I absolutely love this fabric. It's from Stitch Supply Co. They're out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. This holds so many different things from clips to threads, and I just love it. For this next project, we are going to tackle that second challenge item, which is that Cat in the Hat pen. So I started by using my Cricut to cut out a ton of felt shapes. None of these are crazy hard to cut out by hand by any means. I just was making a lot of cuts, and this saved me a ton of time, and I could be working on something else while it was cutting. So you can definitely make this project. I know you're going to want to. Just stick with me, but you could definitely cut it by hand. I'll have SVGs and free printable templates over in my library. So as you can see, we're making a ton of vegetables, and you're probably like, Cat in the Hat and vegetables. Just, again, stick with me. We are going to stitch together the leaves for both our beets or radishes, whatever size you want to make them. We're going to clip them in half and then use a blanket stitch. So you're going to go up from the bottom, and then when you make that loop, put your needle through the loop. We've done a blanket stitch a ton of times before, and if you need like an up close, easier one, I will have a how to blanket stitch down in the description. Once you make it up the stem of your leaf, whether you're doing leaf A or leaf B, there'll be two in the file, then you're going to go right down the center and start a back stitch. So what you're going to do is you're going to come up one stitch length away from where you just went down, and then you're going to go down back through that original stitch. So up a stitch away and then back down through the prior stitch. What that's going to allow you to do is essentially draw a continuous line on the leaf to create the veining. Then to tie it off, I'm going to anchor it on a piece that's already there. So go up underneath, and then you're going to put your needle through that loop that you create twice, pull it tight, and then you can trim it. That is how I tie off all of my felt. And I like to tie my initial piece with a quilter's knot, but you could just tie it by hand too. Then for our shapes, for our carrot, it is just a triangle. So we are going to fold that in half and clip it. These Wonder Clips are awesome for any type of hand sewing. And I'm going to do a blanket stitch like we just did on the leaf. I'm going to go from the tip. You can't get all the way down to the tip, but as close as you can. And then I'm going to go all the way up to the top and tie it off. Then I wanted to make these look very Peter Rabbit-esque. So here's a hint for where we're going. So I took some brown DMC floss, and all of these embroidery flosses I'm splitting in half. So there's 6 strands, but I pull them apart, so I'm using 3. It makes your floss go a lot farther, and I like the thinner look when I'm putting details on. We are going to go around and create a variety of different lengths of horizontal lines with this brown floss to make the carrots really come alive. Then once you get to the top, I'm going to take 3 of the leaves that we made, and the ones that look more like kale leaves, essentially, I'm using those for the carrots, and the more curvy ones for my radish or my beet, turnip, onion, whatever color you use is what it's going to look like. I'm going to take 3 of them, put them together, get them to lay kind of how I want, and then I'm going to take some more floss with it knotted and just go in and out so that they stay together. Then we're going to put those inside of our carrot, and then I'm going to take some more brown DMC floss, and I'm going to go around the outside with a running stitch. So like we did on the project before, in, out, pull it tight, and then you are going to be able to tie it off. I went around probably about 3 times, and I love these carrots so much. They turned out so good. Now let's talk about the larger beet. Now you can cut these as big as you want, as small as you want. It's just going to impact your final size. I'm going to do a back stitch, which is what we did for the veining. I'm going to put 2 together, go up the right side, put the other 2 together, go up the right side, and I'm going to leave about a finger's width at the top because we're going to flip it inside out. Then we're going to clip it together, and we are going to do that same stitch, but we are going to do the 2 open sides. So then essentially you've got a 4-sided shape. Once you're done, flip it inside out using that space that you left at the top. Then we're going to hook our leaves together the same way we did with the carrots, and we're going to put them inside of our vegetable and stitch it shut. There's no rhyme or reason. I just try to make sure that the holes are shut, and I try to hide my thread as much as possible. Now on to our cabbage, lettuce, whatever you want to call it. It really just depends on the colors. I got these colors from, I've seen them at Hobby Lobby and Michael's. You can also get them at a fancier felt place like Benzie Designs. I love ordering from them as well. So wherever you can get your felt and pick whatever colors. So from the file, I ended up just also needing a scrap piece, and I'm just gluing this on to cover the center of this 2-inch foam ball that I got at Hobby Lobby. Then I'm gluing it to this circle in the center, and then we are going to use some more glue to essentially wrap it in the opposite direction to create the center of our lettuce/cabbage. And then you can see up in the right hand corner, I also did a kind of cauliflower one. And the only difference is your scrap piece and your centerpiece will need to be white instead of the green. Once I get everything laying down how I want with hot glue in the center, then I'm going to start with my small little leaves. I did 5 or 6 of each, and I'm just gluing them around kind of like you would a felt flower. Then I'm going to do the different green color to give some contrast, but you could easily do all the same green color. And as I'm going, I'm adding more glue and just kind of having it stick where I wanted it to stick. The glue is so much easier for this project than to hand stitch it, but if you can find a way to do that, I'm sure you can, but hot glue is where it's at here. Once I made it to the big ones on the outside, then this was good to go. So then I cut out the 2 Peter Rabbit little jacket shapes from the felt. So what I did is I took 2 dowel rods, I cut one down, and I used some extra floss from my veggies to wrap it around the center and tie it so it was like a stick for the bunny scarecrow that is in the Peter Rabbit books. Then I added on the little jacket. I blanket stitched up the side and the bottom of the sleeve on either side, and then I used some little buttons from Hobby Lobby just to put them on there to give it a little extra oomph. Then it was time to transition to my friend, the cat in the hat that we're going to turn into Peter Rabbit. So originally I was going to do the shirt, and then I was also going to try to make a bunny head, but I went to Michael's because I needed some more felt, and I saw this bunny pick, and so I thought this is going to be way cuter. I removed the flowers and the bow, and I chopped off the stick, and then it was going to be the perfect size for on top of Cat in the Hat. Now what I needed to do for Cat in the Hat is I needed to break off the bow tie, and then I needed to wrap him in some jute twine because once I put the shirt on, it still was going to be showing the black and white from Cat in the Hat. So I wrapped it in some jute twine, and then I also, when I went to stick the bunny head on, I scraped out a little bit of the back of the head because it's just foam, and then that way it fits onto Cat in the Hat kind of like a just mask, I guess. Then I did the same thing to the jacket for the Cat in the Hat Peter Rabbit. That is a tongue twister. The last thing I did though was made a little mini carrot, and I just stitched it onto his jacket. And then to cover the bottom pen portion, I just added a little bit of extra leaves I had from my head of lettuce that I wasn't using. Then I grabbed this wreath that I recently got at Marshall's. It is a UV protected boxwood wreath, and I really liked the ribbon that was already on it, which usually doesn't happen. I'm usually always like, I gotta change it, but I loved what's on it. So I used some more floss. I used 6 strands, so I used the full piece of floss in the color green, and I used a dowel needle to hook some to it so I could just tie these onto my wreath. The reason I like that is A, I can move things around a lot easier if I want to change it, or I could take these off and then do a summer wreath and a fall wreath with the same thing, so I don't have to have multiple wreaths that I have to store. So once I had everything hooked on there, I realized I needed a little bit more color. And I also wanted to incorporate some traditional fabric, just in case anybody wanted to call me on the project. So I made some little seed packets the same way that we made the flower earlier, except for instead of putting stuffing on the inside, I used some of these comic book boards, and then I just glued the top and bottom flaps down just like you would see in a seed packet. I also took some more of that DMC floss and tied on 2 Dollar Tree like starter planter pots. I like it because they're plastic, they're really light. It's not going to weigh down my wreath, but then I could put my seed packets in there, and it really just rounded out the look. It gave me a little more color because my vegetables were obviously really green. I love how this turned out so much. Yes, it took a little bit of work, but it wasn't like hard work. It was just more tedious. And I will have all of the different elements that I mentioned over in my free file library if you want to make any of these vegetables or the little Peter Rabbit jacket. Oh, I love this, and it's going to live on my wreath display near our dining room because that is where my Peter Rabbit setup is. Since I started sewing, one of my biggest requests is, can we have some beginner-friendly sewing projects? And I figured in a fabric video, this is where it would be time to share. So I created this template, and we're going to make some fabric Easter eggs as well as one more Easter project to round out this video. I created 3 egg sizes plus a template for a carrot. You can find this in my free file library, and all of the fabric cuts that you're going to need for each project are on the templates. So you're going to need some fabric. These are Dollar Tree fat quarters. I also got some yardage from my local Michael's. They had some really pretty fun colored ones. So we're going to go through, cut out the template, then we're going to cut out our squares of fabric, and then we are going to get sewing. So once your pieces are cut out, you are going to take your 2 pieces that are the smaller rectangle, so the 3.5 by 4.5 or whatever that top number is depending on the size, and put those to the side. You want to make sure that your egg fits on it. Then you're going to take your 2 longer ones, fold them in half. You can either press them or finger press them like I'm doing here. And you're going to head over to your sewing machine and sew right along that folded edge 1/4 inch seam allowance and just go straight across. You can chain stitch these if you're making multiple. So with this fabric, there's no like right or wrong side. So I'm just going to go ahead and line these 2 up. But if you had, for example, a right side and a wrong side, you are going to put them with your right sides facing out. So put your wrong sides together, then that way the right print will be on the outside, because I'm going to make some of these Disney ones too. And if you do it like this, when you go to turn it, one of your sides is going to be your, wrong side essentially. So make sure you put wrong side to wrong side, and also make sure that the top of your fabric, if it's directional, is lined up so that it matches, because you don't want it to be all kittywampus when you go to sew. Once you've got everything laid out, I like to clip, or you could pin either side where they're going to overlap, and then put your egg on top, trace it. I'm using a heat erasable marker, but you won't see it, so you can use whatever you have to mark it. And then you are going to sew along the circle, back stitching at the beginning and the end to lock everything in place. Then I took my pinking shears to trim the outside, but you could use whatever scissors that you have. Just make sure they're nice and sharp. And then you can flip it all around. Then you're going to have this cute little Easter egg pocket. And then I like to press them to make everything lay flat. This was such great practice for sewing. It was really easy to stitch all of the ones that were folded in half and then stitch the eggs and then cut them out. And on top of all those colorful eggs, I also made some characters for the boys. Here's a size comparison. So for the small, it's great for things like small candies. The medium is good for Hot Wheels cars or trains like I'm showing here. And the large one fits 2 little people easily. So depending on what you're gifting for Easter, I've got you covered with the sizes. You can also do the same thing and make a carrot pouch. All you need to do is take a felt piece and point it down at the top of your carrot in between your layers. Then you can sew it, make sure you're sewing over the top of that felt, and when you flip it, it's going to be hooked on there so you've got carrot pouches as well. Then to go with those eggs, we are going to make some cute little bunny bags. So I cut 2 main and 2 lining pieces at 8 inches by 11 inches. Then you're going to find the center of that top side and you're going to measure down 4 inches, mark the center, and then we are going to create lines about 1/4 of an inch in from the outside to allot for your seam allowance. You're going to flip both pieces so you've got them wrong sides together, and we're going to sew from the top of one ear down to make like a U shape around to the other top ear. Make sure to leave an opening on the side of your lining so then that way you can flip it right side out when we get there. Stick your hand inside your sewn piece and line up your seams. Then we're going to measure 3 inches across the side and sew. I like to pin and it keeps everything in place. When we're sewing these, this is optional, but because I want my bags to sit up and boxy at the bottom, that is what this is doing. It's creating boxed corners. Once you sew all 4 of those, trim the excess off, leaving about 1/4 of an inch, and flip your outside right side out. Then we're going to take our hand and put it inside your lining that is still wrong side out, so like flipped, and then use some clips to line up your ears and that center V so everything is going to be sewn correctly. Then start at the top of one ear, backstitch when you start and stop, go down, pivot, go up the ear. I like to pick up my presser foot if I need to. And then when that's done, you are going to pull everything out of that opening that you left, and you are going to make sure everything is sewn correctly. This is the time that you can fix stuff if it's not, and then if it's ready to go, you are going to fold that little seam in where you had that opening, sew that down with just a small little top stitch, and then we are going to put everything back in and press it. I like this for beginners because there's no hardware. It is just some simple straight stitches. And then to get the ears to work, I used a clear elastic to have the ears pop up. And then I tied some chiffon ribbon on top to finish it off. I love these. I think they are so fun. The ears are adorable. And like I said, it is a great beginner sewing project, especially because you don't have any hardware. And it also helps you think about sewing things, you know, inside out so that you can flip it. I really enjoyed making this project. The other thing I did is I made some for the boys so you can adjust the dimensions. I made a little one for Henry, a big one for Finn, Thomas, and the cars. Well, that's going to do it for this round of the Mystery Box Challenge. I hope you loved this video. I hope you enjoyed the sewing bits that I shared. If you liked the sewing, let me know because I would love to do more on my channel, but I want to make sure the craft buddies would want to watch it. Let me know a few things in the comments. A, how do you think I did with those challenge items? B, if you've already watched Courtney's video, how do you think I did with sending the challenge items? And also let me know your favorite project down below. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to hit the playlist so you can see what everybody else created, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!